Good morning and welcome to another edition of Fireside Chat with Mayor Jeff Genung. As usual, I am Mayor Jeff Genung. And today, in the holiday Fireside Chat edition, last Fireside Chat of the season, 2018 is coming to a close, at least it has for Council. We had our last meeting last night of 2018, and next meeting will be obviously next year, January 14th. So yeah, this was a wrap on the year. So it was a fairly large agenda last night. We had quite a few things on to talk about, so let's get right into it. We started the evening with a public hearing to do with land use amendment for R3 district, and we dealt with that item later in the agenda, so I will skip right to it. Next, moving into the regular meeting of Council, starting at 6 p.m. last evening, December 10th. We had a couple delegations actually to begin, and the delegations were requesting a tax penalty cancellation. So we had two different tax rules that were asking for their penalties to be waived. Council denied both of them. This is the third time we've dealt with this kind of request this year, and the third time in a row that we have denied the request. So Council is holding the bar on not allowing people to have relief from their tax penalties. So moving on, bylaws. Bylaw 32/2018 was a land use amendment for the R3 district, street-oriented townhomes. That's the one we had the public hearing on earlier in the evening. And this bylaw was essentially just a housekeeping item where the planning department wanted to see street-oriented townhomes included in the R3 district. So this was basically just a minor amendment to clean up some of the text in the land use bylaw. Exciting stuff. Moving on to the next bylaw, we had, and this one was an interesting one. It was bylaw 33, and it was a land use amendment also to have R1 side yard setbacks reduced to 1.2 meters. So this was something the last council had put in place. They had taken the 1.2 meters, which is 4 feet. If you want to, I'm going to use both just so everybody can follow along with what exactly we were doing. In Cochrane, quite a few years ago, I would say early 90s, we amended our land use so that R1, so residential lots, could have a minimum side yard setback. So the side yard on your home would have to be minimum 4 feet from the property line. So that's as close as you could get your house to the property line. So I believe the first community to do so was Glen Eagles. Glen Eagles has been doing a 1.2 meter or 4 foot side yard for some time. The last council put a change in place that would allow the minimum to be 5 feet or 1.5 meters. So the reasoning that they tried to do this was that they thought that it would change street parking, density in residential areas, etc. So it has since been found that that has had no impact on traffic or parking or density. So administration has come back with the planning department asked for the 1.2 meter minimum side yard setback to be reintroduced into our land use bylaw. So council discussed that at fair length last night and decided to move forward with the 1.2 meters being the minimum that your house could be to a property line. So obviously if you live in Cochrane already, it will not affect you. It is for new homes, new lots coming on stream in years in the future, so that homeowners would have a choice of how close their house could be to the side yard. So the thinking being that most families do not utilize a side yard. You could obviously choose for your home to be further away from the property line if you wish, but if you want it to be up close close and maybe have more room on the other side of your home for storage or access to your backyard, you could do that. So we're basically saying that you will have more options available to you as a new homeowner in Cochrane, allowing us to be competitive with other communities around Okotoks, Chestermere, to name a couple that already have this kind of land use in place, and we just want to follow suit and be able to allow this for families. So that is now in place in Cochrane. So, moving on, lastly, the last bylaw was also a textual land use bylaw amendment to include a development notification sign. So I talked about this last Fireside Chat. I brought an example. So when there's going to be a development in town, the person or property that will be putting the development in place must put up one of these signs. So depending on the size of your development, if you're just a single family dwelling, you would probably just use this size of sign. But then if it's a larger development, say you're wondering what's going on or what's going to be developed on this big parcel of land, well, you'll see now, starting in January, there will be an orange sign notice of development. You can take your phone and take your camera app and take a picture of the little QR code on there, and it will take you right to the town map, and it will show you what's going on. As well, there will be an explanation on the sign itself saying development coming of this kind, and so everyone really will have a real heads up on what's coming close to you or in your community, or maybe you're just curious and you just want to know. So it's kind of a way to be a little more proactive in knowing what is coming in your neighborhood, so that if you have, say, an issue with that, you could then appeal it, or you could notify the town, or as I said, you can just know what's coming soon to a land near you. So that is in place now. Next, moving into old business, we had our final report from the Tri-Site Concept Plan Task Force or Committee, and they obviously were the committee that was tasked with looking at the 3 town-owned lands in the downtown core, the rodeo grounds being the biggest profile one, the old Esso bulk dealership land that the town owns, and the current library land and the lot next to the library. So those 3 town-owned lands were given to this task force to come up with how should they be utilized going forward in the future. So last night they came to council, they had a very good presentation, very detailed well, they had a video showing like a 3D rendering video where they flew over the areas and showed us the concept of what they think from all the feedback they've garnered and all of the work they've done and all of the community engagement and all of the charrettes that they've had and the cafe style public engagements they've had. They had a lot of people weigh in on what they think. So this is a real community driven plan, and was just super to see. They each, a few of the committee members last night took turns in presenting to council on the different lands. This obviously is putting to bed finally or to rest, whichever way you want to say it, the rodeo grounds debate. This was been much talked about right back into the election last year. What's going on with the Lions Club and where are the rodeo grounds going to be housed? So the committee is saying we could have everything. Now, we can have our cake and we can eat it too. We can have the rodeo grounds in place. It would be, what they're suggesting is it's a multi-function Cochrane Central Park, where the rodeo grounds would just be one activity that could take place there. So much similar to other communities where it could be flooded in the wintertime and have skating down on the lower bench, and then switch it out in the summertime, put dirt in place for a rodeo, haul the dirt out. Now it's going to be Shakespeare in the Park, or a concert, or Canada Day, or fireworks, or whatever. But it's going to be, these are all just ideas, not written in stone. But But I think it's important to highlight that what they're saying and what the feedback they've taken in and what they're recommending to council is that the rodeo stays in downtown Cochrane. So part of that will be a traffic implementation plan, and part of that will be providing parking on site, which primarily will be underground, is what they're telling us, and some surface parking. So if you want to see more, I could go on and on about this plan, but I think you go to letstalkcochrane.ca and /tri-site, and you can go online, you can see the video, you can see each of the sites. On the old library site, they're talking about an innovation center, a new library, a tech hub, if you will, including transit and a train stop. So very exciting. It's transformational. That's a great word. Yeah, it's going to transform our downtown. I believe this. We have put a lot of emphasis on our transportation infrastructure, and for good reason, but that cannot be our only focus. So we need to continue to build our community. In my view, these 3 sites will, as I said, transform the Cochrane's downtown core. We will be open for business. We'll show the rest of the world that Cochrane is an innovative tech hub, that we have an on-demand transit system in place, that we are a community that is celebrating our heritage but also embracing our future. And I believe that this innovation center and the tech hub and all that will be the beacon of that in our community. So it's exciting times to be a Cochranite, and it's exciting to see our vision actually down on a piece of paper finally. And something I said last night, and I don't take, I take this very seriously, that I think all of the work done by this Tri-Site Committee is important, and it's been a hard journey for them, and I thank them. But now the hard work, where we actually have to make an implementation plan. So we directed administration to come back with this draft implementation plan, to come back in early 2019 with a high-level plan on how we can now execute. So it's important that this plan does not just get shelved, it does not just gather dust, and it was somebody's great idea. We need to actually get to work. So until we prove to the community that this is going to happen and break ground on the first one of those buildings, and I don't care which one, that will be determined. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but it's exciting, and I think it's positive. It's something we can rally around. We can start to draw blueprints. We can start to build things, and people can fundraise and get involved. And I'm just super excited for 2019 and all of the things that we're going to start building. Community building, that's what it's all about. So that's one of the reasons I ran for mayor in the first place, was to do this very thing. I'm just so excited to have the opportunity to be a part of this. So that was a big thing last night. So enough about that. Go online if you want to see more information. Next, we did a little bit of 2018 committee review. So there was a lot of committees, and this would have been back on an agenda in the past, where we look at public at large appointments to committees. We appointed a few people that had applied. We're still looking for public at large for a few committees. So if you want to get involved with your community, check out the Municipal Matters in the Eagle, or come on to our Cochrane website and see what appointments we have available at this point, and apply for a committee and get involved. So moving on, we've got right into the old budget. So something we've been talking about for a few months now. Exciting times again in Cochrane. We're moving forward with the budget. The budget was approved last night by council. 2.98% increase is what was agreed upon. So that would see about a $5 a month per household for average house assessment value. $522, I believe, was the amount that was settled on, and that includes the Oh, I wrote it down. Oh, $8.95 a month, sorry. $5.22 was the tax portion. The rest is the utility charges, generally made up from City of Calgary charges that we just pass along at no cost. So $8.95 a month per household, per month, I said, to each household is what your taxes will go up for the coming year. And I wrote this down last night, and I'm going to say it again. This budget allows us to continue to invest in our community, save for our future, while also providing an on-demand transit system, which I spoke about earlier. And I believe that this budget respects the economic reality of our community, while still positioning Cochrane to be in a good place in the future. So that's the nutshell version of our budget. There's a lot that we're doing, I believe, in this budget for the money that we're spending. A lot of efficiencies were found by the town administration. There were some on council that were disappointed we could not cut more from this budget, but I think that that lends itself to the work that administration has done leading up to the budget being presented to council, and they presented a very lean budget this year. Knowing the economic times that we're faced with in our province and in our community, and this budget addresses a lot of the growth, and growth is paying for growth, and existing taxpayers are helping foot the bill for some of the new things that we're putting in place. Highlights for that, like I said, on-demand transit system, and paying for or saving for infrastructure gap that we've identified where we need to spend or save more for the depreciating assets that we have in our community, such as sewer, water, roads, sidewalks, all of these things that in the future we need to be saving for, so that when they come due for replacement, we have the money in the bank and we don't actually have to go back to the taxpayer, ask for even more increases at that time, or have to borrow money for a higher rate and also increase taxes more at that point. So very prudent, I believe, of the council of today to approve the 2019-2021 budget, which was highlighted last night that we will be revisiting the budget. We have approved a 3-year budget, but right now the next 2 years are only estimates. As we get our assessment values each year, we can then fine-tune the next year in advance. So every year we'll be advancing a year and go out a year. So the next 2 years are not written in stone yet. So when you see the budget percent increase, say for 2021, that is just an estimation at this point, and will be fine-tuned and dialed in as we get closer to those years. So my hope is Cochrane will see an influx of commercial zonings coming in 2019. Greystone is, as we've approved the area structure plan last year, or this year I guess, hoping to see land use be designated in 2019, which will then kick in a higher assessment value. So I'm hoping that we can adjust things and be around, well, it's too early to tell, but if we can have a higher commercial number of commercial zonings in town, that would help our residential tax base. So that has been my push for this year and will continue to be my push in the coming 3 years. So that was the budget. So 2019 is in the books as far as the budget is concerned. Throwing things off to the side. Further on finance, the last thing that we talked about last night was a Q3 financial report. So we got our report for quarter 3. There was a small surplus, and by small I don't mean to diminish the amount. It was $390,000, which is roughly what we see in Q3 in every year. Last year we ended the year just slightly, well, just below what was budgeted, and had to dip into a reserve to top that up by the $80,000 or $90,000, I believe it was. So this year right now we're predicting a $390,000 budget surplus for 2018. So council directed administration to spend $100,000 of that on upgrading our financial software. So we are going to be doing that. Council voted in favor of that, which will streamline our budgeting process. The whole finance department will be Well, it's really, I think we're going to become even more efficient as a department, and it will really speed up our budgeting process and allow us to be more nimble, predict different budget scenarios moving forward, so we can say, if we put this in the budget, then that will happen. If we take this out, then this will happen, and we can do that with a click of a mouse instead of having to run a whole bunch of spreadsheets to do that. So I think that's a very good move. It's something we move forward with that surplus. The other portion of the surplus is going to the pool, so we're paying down some of the subsidy there from the rec board that operates the facility. So that basically takes most of the surplus and allocates it in this year, and we've left a little bit in the bank just to be careful not to have to dip into reserves again in case we were shy. So that is what we talked about in the last meeting of council for 2018. I would just like to take this opportunity to wish everybody a happy holidays. It's been a really busy 2018. I've loved being mayor of Cochrane for this year. It's been like the full first year of the term for me, and I've enjoyed a lot of it. It's been very challenging. There's been a lot on the go. This community has not stopped, and I will not stop either, I would like to put out there. And there's just so much going on. It's exciting, and I look forward to 2019. I hope everybody has a very good holiday season, a happy new year, and has some time to spend with your loved ones and your family and celebrate Christmas however you do with the way you do in your family. So from my family to yours, and from council and everybody here at the town, Merry Christmas. And that's a wrap on this Fireside Chat.